Alright, what's up? This is a commission install that I just finished for John of the Ahsoka Clone Wars Solos Hold Hilts, I believe, from the 2019 run. These two hilts were both a pain and also real fun to work with. So I'll take you through what I've done with them and how they're configured and how to use them and all that kind of stuff. So I'll start with the Sheehan hilt, which is this one. It's the larger of the two. On the outside, what I've done with it at the moment is there's a lot of like greeblies and stuff that I've left off for now. So there's a black disc that goes over here. There's another one that goes on top of this. And there's a couple of pins that go in here. And a little, not really sliding piece, but like accent piece that goes on top of this. I've left them off for now. John, if you'd like me to super glue them down, or E6000 them, whatever works best, if you'd like me to do that, I can do that myself, but I've left them off for now just in case like you want to change anything to do with the install. So what I've done is for each of the hilts, I've put the greeblies and stuff back in this little bag, so they can just go back on here. But yeah, that's just in case we want to change anything that's on the inside. So right now the Saber is turned off, and to turn it off, what you do is you hold this part and unscrew this bottom part here. Takes a little minute, and then there's this little black ring that's separate. I'm not exactly sure what kind of material this is, but it feels really, really weak. So be careful not to drop this. I imagine it will shatter pretty quickly. So taking the chassis, well, not the chassis, taking the pommel off reveals the inside of this gorgeous saber. And what I noticed, John, was that you had the crystal already glued to the rest of this brass piece on the inside, which, as much as it made the piece look really nice, it meant that I had to take the entire crystal out again because it needed a specific LED to sit between the bottom of the crystal and the chassis piece itself, but that's fine, I can work around it. So this is all secured in place. This is a non-removable chassis with a non-removable battery as well, and what that means in the end is that this needs a charge port. So the port is on the back. Well, if you're looking at it brass button from the top, then it's on the top. Yeah, so the 1.3mm charger, which is this bad boy, fits into there. It doesn't go in all the way, it kind of goes in about this much, so if it doesn't look like it's fully in, then that's by design. So don't force this, because any pressure this way on the chassis might break something on the inside. So it helps as well if you can kind of either hold the chassis and then pull it out, or kind of just push with your fingers and pull the port out like that. So that's how you charge the Saber. There is a switch on the back here that turns the Saber on and off whenever you're not using it. However, I've enabled the Saber to go into deep sleep after 5 minutes, so if you forget to turn it off, it's not going to drain it very quickly. You might notice over time, though, that it will start shouting low battery warnings at you, even if it is in deep sleep mode, so it is best to just turn it off eventually. Flipping over to the other side, you can just about see the Proffieboard in there. That is glued down, and the USB port for flashing the firmware is in there, as well as the SD card. I imagine you won't use those very often, John, because all of the fonts and stuff are on there already, but you know, just in case we need to change that again in the future, then the option's there. The SD card in this Saber is a little bit annoying, because there's kind of a gap underneath where the SD card goes, and if you miss the kind of SD card slot of the Proffieboard, then you can get the SD card stuck behind the Proffieboard, and there is no way to get it out besides taking the whole Saber apart. So I would advise getting some like plastic tweezers or something to kind of pull the SD card and make sure that it's lined up before you commit to pushing it in. That is if you ever need to change anything that's on the card, but all the fonts that you've asked for are already on the card, so there shouldn't be a reason to do that. Right, so enough talk about the outside of it. Let's get this powered up. So when the saber is turned off, you'll see the little power switch here is on the left. And then if you flip it over to the right, then what will happen is a boot up sound will play and the crystal in the bottom here will glow from red to green, showing your battery life of the saber. So to show you what happens there, I'll power this saber on now. So there's the little boot up sound. It then shows the battery life and then goes to the standard kind of crystal animation for the font that it's currently on. So you probably noticed there as well, there's a bit of a green flash before the battery life kicks in. With the nature of Proffiobot right now, there's not really much of a way to kind of deal with that. So ignore the brief green flash at the start, but then it fades up from red to your battery life. It might stay at red, in which case it's pretty low. If it goes up higher than that, if it goes to green, it'll probably be like 90 or 100%. If it's like an orange or yellow, it'll be 40 to 60%. There's no specific color means a number. It's just kind of anywhere between red and green is your battery life. So I'll show you that again. There you go. So we're about just under half battery, I imagine, right now. So while the saber is off, as I said before, the crystal is kind of just doing its own thing. It shows the blade color that is currently selected for this font. And while the saber is off, the crystal is pulsing. And it'll do that for 5 minutes if you're not using the saber. So if you're done with it and you put it back on the shelf, the crystal will turn off automatically after 5 minutes. So for using the saber, the button configuration is in the way that you asked for. So with the brass button greebly up at the top here, this button on the side here is the activation button, and the one on this side is the auxiliary button. So powering it up, you obviously press the power button, and as you can see, everything works pretty well. So what I'll do first, just so it's not quite as jarring, is I'm going to turn the volume down, which is something that you can do with the saber. So to do that, while the saber is off, if you hold the aux button, it'll play a volume menu sound, and then pressing the aux button a few times will turn the volume down. Pressing the power button will turn the volume up. So I'd say that's a good volume just there. And then to lock in the volume, you have to hold the aux button again for about a second, and then it'll play a locking sound, and that volume is now secured in place. So another thing you can do with every font is if you hold the power button, then you get whatever song is associated with this font. And then while the music track is running, you can still boot the saber and use it. So yeah, so to turn the music track off, if you just hold the power button again for a second, it'll turn off the music track. Right, so let's get to some of the actual features for when the saber is on. So obviously, it being a Proffieboard, you've got smooth swing. So if you kind of do low level movement, you'll just get kind of like basic level swings that follow the movement. But if you do like a faster swing, it'll play kind of one accent sound to match, you know, the fact that you've just done like a big swing. Oh yeah, another thing as well that I thought I'd mention, the crystal now mimics the blade while the saber is on, so this is now just flickering. It's kind of hard to notice, but it does have a little bit of flicker to it. It's a little bit more prominent in real life. Yeah, so A couple of other features that it has include the blaster blocks. So on the blade it'll show like a white accent piece for if a blaster's just hit the blade, and then pressing the auxiliary button will activate those blaster effects. And the crystal will also mimic those effects. It's also got clashes, which the crystal will mimic as well. And if you hold the power button or the aux button, it doesn't really matter. But if you hold one of those and then clash, then you go into a lockup until you release that button again. The other thing you can do is if you hold the blaster button for a minute, well, for a second, not for a minute, then every single swing that you do will kind of go into like an auto blast mode. So every swing will do a new blaster block. Notice how I'm not pressing any of the buttons to do that. And then if you just hold it again, or not hold it, sorry, if you just tap it again, then you'll go out of that auto blast mode. And then another feature that it has, if you hold the power button and press the aux button, then you go into like a lightning block type of effect. I'll show you this properly when I get a blade in a second, but yeah, that's another effect that it can do. So yeah, I will just turn that off for a second, and now I'll get the blade plug out of the top here. So I think this is a M3 Allen key wrench here. So if you kind of just give this like a basically about a half turn or 3/4 of a turn, then the blade plug will come out of the top there. So I've got your blade here. It's a little bit tricky to show this, but this just sits in there. Make sure that it's sitting comfortably at the bottom. Give it a little bit of a twist to make sure it is actually sitting at the bottom. And then give this about a half twist again, and then it will work as expected. So it's a little bit hard to show this because of the size of the blade, but I'll try and do the best I can. So powering it up and power down, you get the wonders of NeoPixel working there. So blaster blocks will look like this. What else have we got? We've got the lightning block. So yeah, all these effects are pretty cool, and as you can see, we've got a little a basic level flicker for pretty much all of these styles. So yeah, there you go. That is how it looks with the main blade. I'll take the blade out for now, just to kind of make filming this a little bit easier. So there we go. Let's get the blade plug back in. Now, as you've noticed already, the volume capabilities on this Saber are a little bit tricky. On this Saber, when it's in this state, annoyingly, most of the volume actually comes out the bottom, but that all changes when you secure this piece back on. So you'll notice as soon as I cover that area, the volume level changes. So now, most of the sound is actually kind of coming out about here. There's a bit of a groove in the black section underneath this, and that is actually where most of the sound is coming from, kind of the two grooves that are around there. That, and it's also coming out the top a little bit as well, actually. So yeah, this is how it looks all assembled. Yeah. So it looks pretty good. I'm going to now move on to the Shoto hilt, and I'll demonstrate all of the fonts that both of these sabers have as well. So this is the Shoto hilt, arguably my favourite of the two. I'm honestly slightly jealous that I have to send these hilts off to you, because this one, as much as it was the biggest pain in the world to have to build this one, I really like it as a hilt. So setup is the same as before. There's a little part at the bottom that you unscrew, the pommel. You take that off, and it reveals not exactly a crystal chamber, but as you know, John, the Saber doesn't have enough space for a crystal chamber down here. So what I've done is, you'll see that there's these brass pieces here that kind of sandwich the board in the middle, and what I've done is I've put 2 LEDs on both sides behind the brass pieces, kind of sandwiching the Proffieboard. So to turn that on, the power switch is at the bottom here. Kind of get at it with your fingernail. It does the same thing with the battery indicator, same as the last one. But this one's a little bit different. It's because it has 2 LEDs in there, I was able to kind of cycle back and forth between them as a kind of funky off effect. I could change it to the same as the other Saber if you'd like, but you know, given the fact that this actually fits more LEDs in the bottom, kind of opened up a bit more opportunity here. So I thought I'd change up the effects a little bit. Same story as before with the charger. It doesn't quite sit in all the way. It sits at about there. It kind of clicks as it goes in, and that's the level that you want it to sit at. And then just pull this out. And then as soon as you pull it out, then it'll restart. So the charge port kind of acts like a switch. So when the charger's in, it turns the Saber off automatically. Take it out, and the Saber boots up. Shows you your battery life, which is kind of clever. Same deal goes for this one. SD card is in there. It's a little bit easier to reach, and less chance of it falling behind anything. If you do need to get it, you can kind of get your fingernails in there. It's a little bit tricky, but you can do that. The reason it's got to be so recessed in there is because if it was any further out this way, then this piece would clash with it, and it would push everything. And you don't want to apply pressure to the SD card port, so it's kind of just sitting there, a little bit deep, but it's there if you need it. Same with the USB port as well. I can't imagine that you'll be needing to flash the firmware, so that's just recessed in there. Yeah, so those are the main physical differences with this Saber. The setup for the buttons is exactly the same. So brass button up, the button on the right is the power button, and the button on the left is auxiliary. And you'll notice, so the green of this one is a little bit different to the other one. It's actually almost a bit more yellow, like the Sabers are in the Clone Wars. So if you have a look at the difference between the two, I'm trying to show you this here. So Shoto hilt on the right. You can definitely tell there's a bit of a difference there. Just another quick thing to mention, story is the same with this one. I've got a bag with all of the extra greeblies that still need to be added on, in case we need to open this back up for any other changes. So the disc will get glued on here, and then the 2 little pins, the Graflex style pins, will get glued up there. So yeah, that is the bulk of the outside of the Saber. So to get the blade plug out, it's the same story as before. I believe it's an M3 Allen wrench to get out this slightly smaller blade plug, and then you can fit in the blade. So this blade has 92 LEDs in it rather than the 132 of the regular size pixel stick. And here we go. You can tell that that's definitely a much more of a near yellow. It looks a bit more yellow on camera than it does in person, but the colour of it does perfectly match up to how Ahsoka's sabers look in the Clone Wars. So we've got all the same effects as the other Saber. You got the volume menu. You can turn it up with the power button. I'll turn it down with the aux button. Lock it in by holding it. We've got the music track. And then with the blade on, we've got the blaster effects, the lightning block, We've got lockup. And also, as you requested, no battle mode on here. There's just standard lockup modes on here. No complicated stuff going on. Yeah, so right, I'll now take you through all of the fonts that are on here. The fonts that are on this also match up on the Shein hilt. So the first font, as you've already heard, is Annie's Padawan. The second font is Ahsoka Tano from Season 7, Episode 9 of Clone Wars. And to cycle through the fonts, if you just click the aux button once, it'll go to the next font. And if I just take this off quickly, you'll notice the crystal has already changed to the colour of the new blade. So turning this on gives you kind of like an ice blue effect. And then the music track for this one. Yeah, is that one. So another quick thing I wanted to mention real quick is the fact that when you're on a specific font, obviously you can use the auxiliary button to cycle forward a font. So this will be the one afterwards. If you want to go back a font, that is possible. If you hold the aux button and then quickly press the power button, like that, then you go back a font. Yeah, just thought I'd put that in there as well. The thing with each font is that you can only have one track per font. So you can't have like not yet anyway, you can't really have a multi-track layer. So for now it's just one track per font. So I've kind of picked one of the tracks to go with each of the fonts, if that makes sense. The next font is the Mandalorian Ahsoka font. So you'll notice every time I change font, this kind of plays a title sound, kind of reminding you what font is about to play. So this is a white blade. Something that you'll notice actually with the white blade is the closer that the saber gets to low battery, the white on the blade will start to look a bit more orange. So that's kind of your cue to charge it up at some point soon. So for now, it looks pretty good. It's kind of getting towards there a little bit because I think it's about kind of half battery. So there's a very subtle audio flicker with this one. And the song that goes along, the track, sorry, that goes along with this is the one from the end of the series. The next font is the Luke from the end of Mando, spoiler alert, with the same song as the last font.
Incoming craft, identify yourself.
So at the moment, this font has these kind of annoying pre-on and post-off sounds that play. So it's kind of, you press the saber to ignite it, but then there's another sound that plays first.
One X-Wing? Great, we're saved.
And then it ignites after the sound is done playing.
I will give my life to protect the child, but he will not be safe until he masters his abilities.
And then you can see as you turn the saber off, it plays a post-off sound. Those just came with the font. John, if you want me to remove those, then feel free to mention that, and I can have those removed as well. It's pretty easy to do that. Next font up on the list is Graflex 5. So with a nice audio flicker blue blade. Next up we got Mace Windy.
Master Windu.
You can see it's very difficult to get purple on these sabers, but I think I did a pretty good job. Again, looks a lot better in person, but you'll see that soon. And then next up we got Lost Sister, so the Ventress font.
Ventress.
Again with a nice audio flicker. And then we got Misa Bad, which is...
This is my apprentice, Garth Binks.
So this is one of my favourite fonts. The crystal for this one is a little bit different. It kind of pulses in and out. rather than go up and down like all of the other ones. So this one, when you ignite it, there is a kind of spark tip blade for a little bit more of an oomph when you ignite it. So you see that little white pulse as it goes up when you ignite it. And then you've got an unstable blade underneath that. So there you go. And then the last font up on the list that you've requested is the Seismic Charge font.
Seismic charges.
So this is orange and looks like this. So the track for Graphics 5 is this.
Master Windu.
And the track for Mace Windy is this.
Ventress.
And the track for the Ventress font is this.
This is my apprentice, Garth Bix.
And the track for the Misa Bad font is this.
Seismic charges.
And the track for the Seismic Charges font is this. Yeah, so there you go. You also requested that I keep all of the default fonts on here. So just taking you through those quickly, we've got Teensy. I've also kept all of the default kind of blade styles that go with them as well. So with these, there's no effects on the crystal because, well, the default setting is no effects on the crystal, so I've just left it as it is. There's nothing particularly special about these ones. But, well, it does turn on when the saber is functional, but there's nothing when it's off.
Smooth Jedi.
So we've got Smooth Jedi after that, which kind of demonstrates that spark tip that I mentioned a minute ago. It's a little bit hard to see on camera.
Smooth Grey.
We've got Smooth Grey after that, which is a cool kind of like fire blade. Goes right up to the end.
Smooth Fuzz.
We've got Smooth Fuzz after that, which is just a basic red blade. We've got Rogue Commander after that, which is a kind of blue fire, which I think is pretty cool. After that, not sure what this one is. This is another one of the default ones.
Smooth Jedi.
Another Smooth Jedi, which is kind of orange and white flicker. And then after that,
Smooth Grey.
Smooth Grey again, with a pink blade. We've got Smooth Fuzz after that with a kind of gradient blade, which goes from blue down to pink at the hilt. I've got another Rogue Commander font, which is really cool. It's like this rainbow, really trippy rainbow style on here. There was a couple of the default fonts that I decided to take off because it was just strobing white was one of them. And I didn't want to put you through that because it really hurt to look at it. So I've taken that one off of here.
Smooth Jedi.
There's this last font as well, which is a blade indicator battery life. So this doesn't do anything apart from show you your battery life on the blade, which is pretty cool. So if it was at the tip, it would be 100%. Down at the bottom is near 0, so that's about, like 40? But yeah, turning it on doesn't do anything. And then we go back to the start. So I'll just get the blade in the other one to show you the difference in the first Ahsoka font, because obviously those two blade colors are a little bit different. So here you go. These are the two sabers side by side. This is the green of the Shein hilt, and here is the yellow of the Shoto hilt. Kind of green-yellow, actually. So there you go. That's the difference between the two. It's a little bit less dramatic in person again, actually, but it's accurate to the show. A couple of things I want to mention before I end this video is the differences between the two hilts that I've noticed. So in terms of sound, the kind of high-end, crisper sounds definitely sound better on this saber, but this has a lot of bass to it, which is interesting because both of the sabers use the same speaker. It's just there's a little bit more of an air cavity in this one, and the speaker isn't quite as close to the holes as it is on this one. And it's definitely a lot more noticeable with the pommels closed up, so I'll just do that quickly. So here you go, this is the difference with the pommels on. Here's the Shein hilt. And then here's the Shoto hilt. So you can kind of tell, I don't know if you can tell on the video, but this one is a little bit more muffled. You can almost get a bit more volume out of this one, but this one sounds a lot crisper. So yeah, I think that covers everything to do with the hilts. So there you go. That is the quick overview of the Ahsoka Clone Wars hilts. I'm really happy with how they turned out. John, if there's anything that you want me to change, or if you have any other questions about this video, then feel free to drop me a line on Facebook, and I'll get anything sorted out like as soon as I can. I think once I have everything sorted, I'm going to hang on to them for another like week or so, just to make sure there's no other kind of major physical flaws before I get everything glued on. If that's something that you want me to do, but if you want to kind of inspect it yourself and then have those glued on afterwards, then I'll leave that up to you. So yeah, thanks anyone else for watching. If you decided to watch through to the end, I really appreciate you guys helping me build up this new channel. If there's any other commissions that you guys want, just drop me a line on Facebook and I will get to it. Yeah, so there you go. Like I said, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.